What's up, everybody? Welcome to the video. Chris Pennell here. We're going over a first look for week 5 of the NFL season for DraftKings and FanDuel. With it being so early in the week, I can't go too in-depth because there's obviously a lot of injury news that we have to wait to make better decisions for this weekend. So I'll do my final look video on Saturday, going more in-depth on the entire slate. So right now, we'll just kind of take a broad look at the teams that I have interest in as of right now. And then at the end, I'll try to build a lineup just for some fun to see what fits early on in the week. If that sounds good to you, do me a favor, leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. Let's dive right into it. All right, so like I said, not gonna go position by position too in depth on just individual players in this video. We're just gonna look at some of the overall game environments that at least look good on Tuesday and some of the teams that have piqued my interest early on in the week. And we'll be just taking a look at my stack sheet here. It's just an easier way to visualize things, just see which teams look good in the passing department, which running backs look good, and just seeing how their price tags out. Because obviously we're gonna need some value. We're gonna be able to spend up in some places. Just makes everything easier to see it in one spot. We do have the depth chart right beside it with the prices and projections. So this is just the stack sheet. And if you guys do want access to the entire NFL model where I simulate the games out, just the detailed projections on all players, ownership, optimizer, all that fun stuff, you can find the link down below the description or the pinned comment. But anyway, let's get into our first game here, which I think is going to draw in a lot of ownership on both teams. We have 51-point over-under for Baltimore versus Cincy, 27-point total for Baltimore here, 24.5 for the Cincinnati Bengals. I am currently projecting Lamar Jackson to be the highest projected quarterback of the week and the highest owned quarterback, which at $7,500, I wouldn't say it's overly difficult to fit him in our lineups. And if you are playing cash games, you really just want to stick with these mobile quarterbacks when you can. Last week, once again, Jaden Daniels comes through. Kyler Murray busted. That was unfortunate. I'm sure a lot of people did end up going Kyler Murray. Definitely a down week from him. No Trey McBride, I guess maybe hurt things. But I would just once again stick with these rushing quarterbacks. You have Jaden Daniels, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson. Those are once again probably going to be your cash game quarterbacks. But right now, Lamar Jackson leading the way for me. The thing with Lamar is, though, like for stacking in tournaments, Cincinnati, like you're going to want to stack there. Because just for example, these are early week projections. They will certainly change as I update throughout the weekend. But if you're just looking at stack projections, I mean, Cincinnati blows Baltimore out of the water just because like Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, that's the offense. And then sometimes you get Zay Flowers, good games. Then after that, Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar, the tight end position's a dumpster fire with Mark Andrews. Isaiah likely shows up sometimes. We saw week 1, but I mean, it's been really difficult to trust them. But as you can see, their quarterback wide receiver ranking just so much lower than Cincinnati here. So if you are stacking in tournaments, and that's something you want to do, Burrow with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Yoshi Voss, Mike Gesicki, which very upset last. I did play Mike Gesicki. He was low owned in one of my tournaments, and he was wide open on a slant route in the end zone, and Burrow just didn't want to throw it his way. I don't know what happened, but that was unfortunate. Bengals, Panther stack, which ended up doing solid, but man, I could have really used that Gesicki touchdown because I think he finished the game with like 1 catch for -6 yards or something. Just absolutely terrible. Eric All ended up getting some more work there, but yeah, Cincy, if you want to stack, is a really good spot. Baltimore, you can still stack with Lamar if you want to. If I'm going to, it's going to be with Zay Flowers. But overall, I like both offenses. I like all the pieces there. But Lamar Jackson, my QB1 of the week. Next up, we have another pretty fun game here with lots of fantasy options. The 49ers take on the Arizona Cardinals. 28.8 implied team total for the Niners, 21.25 for the Arizona Cardinals. And it's pretty much stack galore in San Francisco. I think Brock Purdy's an excellent option. This weekend, he's only $6,200. Similar projection to Joe Burrow, a couple $100 savings. But there's endless stacking options with Brock Purdy. Deebo Samuel returned last week. If you want to go with him, he's below 7K. Brandon Ayuk has yet to get the form yet, but he's still pretty cheap in the mid 6K range. Juwan Jennings is there. George Kittle, $5,600. He's been one of the few good tight ends so far this year. Andy missed a week. I know the rookie wide receiver, his window is open, one who got shot, but I would assume he's not going to be back this week. And then Jordan Mason. Like, yeah, if I'm playing Jordan Mason, I'm probably not too interested in the 49ers passing attack. But if I am not playing the passing attack, I mean, I want all the Jordan Mason I can get. I said last week it was a down week the week prior, but he still got plenty of volume, over 20 touches, and that's not going to change. And we saw it versus the Patriots. The volume did not change. Big week for Mason, nearly 30 fantasy points. And while we can't project him for 30 fantasy points, I have him for 16.4 currently, which I'm usually pretty conservative in projections anyway. But it's hard to find a better spot versus Arizona, as they have been getting torched by running backs since the beginning of last season. Just smash spot here versus the Arizona Cardinals, and they are about 7-point favorites here. High implied team total. No reason not to like Mason once again. I think he should be around $8,000, and I will continue to play him. As for Arizona, Not huge on their stack. I do prefer the 49ers in general. I think Kyler Murray is still a fine play. But honestly, I feel like I just end up getting run backs from this game here, like Maserati Marv here, $7,500. Trey McBride, assuming he would be back, kind of expensive though, but more so interested in the 49ers side of things. So Green Bay, I do not have the Rams on here because I am not playing the Rams outside of Kyren Williams, who I think is a pretty good play this weekend. But I really like this Green Bay Packers offense. They're pretty cheap on DraftKings, averaging a salary of under $5,200. Christian Watson's banged up, which condenses the receiving core a little bit, which is nice because they have so many guys that the ball could potentially go to. And while Love did not get a hot start in his return last week, he still got that for fantasy purposes, almost brought the Packers back at the end. But I think all the Packers look really good here. Josh Jacobs is one of my favorite running backs of the week at $6,400. Jordan Love with Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, Wicks got a couple of touchdowns last week. Even Tucker Kraft. I think all these guys are in play. They're really cheap. Most expensive one, I believe, is Jaden Reed and Jordan Love at $6,500. Other than that, I mean, very affordable stack, very beatable defense against the Rams. Definitely liking the Packers for value this weekend. And you don't have to run it back with anybody. I mean, if you want Parkinson, maybe just for one of the wide receivers, or just Kyren Williams. I mean, we really have nobody else on offense besides Kyren at this point. But for me, I just kind of like a Packers mini onslaught there. Getting to another fun game here, 47.5 point over under for Houston and Buffalo. Stephon Diggs against his former team. But yeah, this is a pretty solid game on paper. Both sides have their interest. So Josh Allen, going to be one of the top projected quarterbacks in the slate. He's one of those guys that's also playable in cash games, like Allen, Kyler, Lamar, Daniels. Like those are your safest options on the board because they can all use their legs. They can all get rushing touchdowns. For me, stack-wise, I feel like Houston makes a lot more sense here. I mean, if you're just looking at the numbers in general, I mean, quarterback, wide receiver, quarterback, tight end. Well, not quarterback, tight end. That goes Buffalo's route with Dalton Kincaid. But quarterback, wide receiver specifically, it looks like Tank Dell is going to be back this week, which is fortunate for the Texans, kind of unfortunate for DFS because it just kind of muddies things up. Nico Collins is going to be the alpha dog in this offense. That is not going to change. That dude is legit just really, really good at football. As you can see, I have him as my highest projected wide receiver for Houston. Diggs is number 2, Tank Dell number 3. That should be no surprise to anyone. Yes, I know it's a revenge narrative for Stephon Diggs, but I don't buy into that stuff. I mean, sure, if he does good, he does good, but that's not because it's a revenge game. It just happened to be he's playing his whole team. Stephon Diggs is a good wide receiver, good football player. If he does good, it's not just because of that. So Stroud, Nico, Diggs, Stacks, Tank Dell, whatever it may be, I think they're all viable versus this Buffalo defense. Like, absolutely tore up last week versus the Ravens, although most of the damage was just from the running backs. Derrick Henry, nearly 200 yards, multiple touchdowns. Justice Hill got into the end zone. Lamar Jackson, big game. I believe Buffalo is now giving up the most points per game to running backs. Currently, very small sample size in Baltimore. I mean, obviously a tough team to face so far, so that might be a bit skewed. But Joe Mixon is back, which I thought he was going to play last week, ended up being ruled out on Sunday, was able to get a couple of practice sessions in, but if he is back, still a good spot here. First, the Buffalo Bills, so don't rule him out. And then obviously Josh Allen's a fine play, but not overly interested in his pairing options, but just himself alone is fine. I do have him as one of the best projected quarterbacks on the slate, which should not be surprising to anybody. A game that's by itself here, I do not have interest in the Indianapolis Colts. I also don't know exactly what the quarterback situation is going to be like. If Joe Flacco happened to start, big bump for the pass catchers. If Anthony Richardson is in, probably a bump down for everybody, including the Colts in general. But Jacksonville here, I mean, the Colts defense is not great. Justin Fields had an absolute field day, no pun intended there, versus that defense. And while Trevor Lawrence has not been good this year, it's been a rough stretch. He's got great pass catching options. They're not overly expensive at all. I wouldn't hate small stacks there. Now, if Flacco happened to start, you could run that back with some of the pass catchers there over in Indy. And then we have the Commanders and the Cleveland Browns, which, look, I'm a Browns fan. I got a Cleveland shirt on right now, but it's not fun looking at their offense. I don't enjoy watching the Browns games. But if you're ever going to play the Browns offense, I would say it's probably here versus the Washington Commanders. It is dirt cheap. Watson's $5,300. I got him projected for nearly 16 points. That is not bad point per dollar wise. You could look at Jerome Ford if you want, but if I am playing the Browns, it's probably Watson, Amari Cooper stacks, Jerry Jeudy would also be in play. We'll have to see if David Njoku returns. I think he's somewhat close. He would obviously be in play. And then for Washington, for me, it's mainly just liking Jaden Daniels because of how consistent and how high that floor is with his rushing upside every single week. You could look at Brian Robinson, although I kind of liked him just because Austin Eckler was out last week because it just gave him the entire backfield for the most part. And then McNichols is there as well. But I was assuming Eckler is going to be back this week, but not 100% sure. You never have to stack with Daniels. You can play him naked. But if you're going to, Terry McLaurin or Zach Ertz are going to be your top options. And then Seattle, I don't really have interest in the Giants outside of Malik Neighbors. I think I have him projected as my wide receiver 2 just overall this week, only behind Jamar Chase. So a lot of interest there with Malik Neighbors as a fine run back option. But Geno Smith's been awesome. They had a great game on Monday night versus the Detroit Lions, and he's got 3 clear-cut stacking options with him. At wide receiver with DK Metcalf as the alpha, then JSN, Tyler Lockett, pretty much 2A, 2B there. But Geno's been good. Kenneth Walker, massive game versus a pretty tough Lions run defense. He'll be in play versus the Giants. And you could look at Noah Fant as well. But for me, it's kind of just either I'm going with Geno, JSN, and Metcalf, or I'm playing the run game here with Kenneth Walker. But lots of interest for Seattle. Near 25-point implied team total, and I'm not that scared about the Giants defense. All right, so let's over to DraftKings here. We will try to build a lineup. And again, if you guys are copy-pasting the lineup you see on Tuesday, you deserve to lose. Not a smart decision. Shouldn't copy lineups you see anyway. Use your own favorite plays, and you can apply a similar process as I like to do. It's not the only way to win, but it's what I like to do for single entry type builds. So we need a quarterback here, and I'll probably save some money. I like Geno. He's not going to throw the ball 56 times again, but they've been throwing the ball a lot more in this offense this season. And if I am playing Geno, well, he can run the football. I'm not saying he's a statue back there. He can, but I want some stacking options with him. So let's play DK Metcalf. We will play... Well, I guess we can play JSN with him. And if we want to run it back, we can with Malik Neighbors, who $7,300. I know he kind of got banged up, gave himself a concussion at the end of the game, but I don't hate that start. Now, it's kind of expensive, $400. You might have to axe one of these guys. We will see. But at running back, currently, I love Jordan Mason, but man, I don't know if I'm able to afford him in this specific build. That gives me $4,150 left. And if I want to play Josh Jacobs as well, I am running out of money quickly. That leaves me $3,400 left. But keep in mind, 2 of the things we have left are tight end and defense, which we can always play a dirt cheap defense. That's never hurt anybody. Don't really want to do the Cardinals versus the Niners, and I can't play the Giants versus my stack because that makes no sense. But the Panthers, I feel like I just keep playing the Panthers. I don't even know how their scores have been. I'm not a game log watcher, but -1, 5, 5-1. You know what? I don't care. It's the Bears, rookie quarterback. I know Caleb's been playing better, but I mean, whatever. Who cares? $2,400. We'll roll with it. At this point, we have under $4,000 left for the last 2 spots. Cheap tight end, though. That could save us. We might be able to get into the 4K range. Just eyeballing it here, I would say Tucker Kraft is probably our best point per dollar option of the week. 9 targets versus Minnesota. And also with Christian Watson going down, like I said, it helps us condense the offense a little bit more. It makes it easier. I'm not going to project 9 targets again, but if we can see 4+, I would feel comfortable with it. So $3,500. That leaves us $43 for the last spot, which obviously we don't have a running back to use. So wide receiver would have to be where we go. And so Devontae Adams, I don't think he's going to be playing for the Raiders once again this week. You could look at Trey Tucker. You could play a cheap Yoshi Voss at $4,000. I know T. Higgins got more involved. You have Noah Brown. Like there is options to get to. I know it's not pretty, but there is playable players. Elijah Moore versus Washington if you want it. I know he only had 1 target last week. The Browns' offense is very consistent, but there's options. So I'll leave it up to your own imagination if you want. But overall, I think the roster construction of this build looks pretty good. We have Geno Smith double stacked with DK Metcalf and JSN. Running back with Malik Neighbors, assuming he's playing. Jordan Mason, Josh Jacobs, pretty much my 2 favorite running backs of the week when you factor in the matchups, the prices, and all that. Really like Kyron Williams as well. Tucker Kraft, the tight end, he's cheap and probably going to be the chalk. I believe he was my highest owned tight end in early runs for projected ownership. Panthers defense, they fit. Flex is up to you. But overall, I don't think that looks terrible. With that being said, that's all I got for today's video. So I hope you enjoyed it if you did, or even if you didn't. Make sure you leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. Wish you all the best, and I'll see you all later in the week.